And welcome back to the show, everybody. My name is Brian Elam. I will be your host here on this episode of the Be Successful series here on Get Your Entrepreneurship Together. And today is all about operations, running your business, making it run smarter, faster, smoother. And I've got the guest here to help you do that, Cory from Gravir. I am so happy to have you on. Thank you for being here, brother.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we just get right into the meat and potatoes about running a business, making sure it's going smooth and all of this and that, I wanted to have the audience understand a little bit more of your background and see where you're coming from. And in doing some research, I realized that there was about a 6 year gap between you exiting the Army, your military career, and then starting Gravir. And I was wondering, what was it that was going on in your life at that time? And what were you searching for?
That was college. So I did college and then I worked for Caterpillar for a couple of years up in Chicago. But I during that time I was studying architecture and civil engineering and then switching to business and dabbling in all of the maths that come with that. I was learning all of the trigonometry for architecture, and I had to go through trig 1, 2, and 3 for that, and then I had to go through calculus when I switched over to business, and so I had to do calculus 1, 2, and 3, and then I did statistics. I think I did 1, 2, and 3 of statistics as well, and then so you just get slammed with math if you do that. So make up your mind between architecture and business if you're a young kid. But yeah, I got out of the military and went straight into college. I mean, I was Afghanistan to Lubbock, Texas in a month, and then I started college in January. And so it was October, November, December. So I got out of Afghanistan at the end of October and then got back to Fort Campbell, out processed the Army in November, and then was back in Lubbock in December and started college January 12th of 2010. And then I
Dude,
and then I exited the Army formally January 30th because you get like a leave period. So
dude, what a turnaround. That's a whirlwind of a ride, man. And there are so many, former military people that are out there right now and they're starting their own businesses. I've seen so many veteran owned businesses pop up. How how did you make the transition, or was it easy, or just because it was so chaotic you didn't have time to think about it, that transition right away from serving to civilian life and getting back into it? Like, how did you do that?
um, you know, I was so structured at that point. Do this, do that. And I always say it was a lot more flexible than you would imagine the Army to be. It's not just some sergeant barking orders at a private, like we see on TV, but you do have that structure. And so I went in and said, okay, I just switched jobs. My new job is my new career path right now is student. My job title is student. And this student on his bullet list is make A's. That's it. And when you take a mission like that and say, this is the mission, then it's really easy to just transition immediately. Um, One of the things that did happen is I dropped a lot of personal balls, as we like it. You got glass balls and rubber balls, and you're always juggling. That's just life, right? And so you can't drop the glass balls because you're never going to get them back because they break as soon as they hit the ground. But if you drop a rubber ball, it'll bounce back up and you can bring it back into the fold. But
So
um,
right real quick, what
yeah,
give me an example of a glass ball?
I would say the best definition either way around is a relationship. If you burn that bridge, that's a glass ball. So if I don't talk to you, I just had a conversation this morning, as a matter of fact, with somebody who's got a project going on, and the staff is just not completing the project. He's looking to hire me to come in as this intermediary QA/QC project manager for this week and this week alone to get this thing out the door and launched. Is that a rubber ball for that team that has been dropping the balls? I don't know. Is that, I mean, he's going to hire me or someone outside to come in and fix this. So that guy's probably not going to use that team ever again, right? That's doing this. They're going to finish this out, and then he's not going to recommend them. There's no 5-star rating on Google. There's no, any of that. He's going to probably come in and say, hey, Cory was wearing the hero cape. Let's give it to Cory next time. Which is, I'm not doing these types of projects anyway, but to come in and do that, I'm considering it. So I've got a little bit of due diligence to do this evening and tomorrow, but that's a glass ball that team dropped. One of the balls that was dropped was my mental health. And back in college, I didn't realize that I was coming out of Afghanistan. I had seen some things, and all of a sudden I'm in civilian world, and it's just black and white, boom, boom. Over time, people start saying, hey, can you look me in the eye? Because I'm scanning the room and I'm making sure that I know where the exits are, and I know I have a contingency, and all of these other things are rolling around in my subconscious and in my conscious. They're bleeding over. That residual stuff is there. But I wasn't seeking treatment. I didn't know I needed treatment. Those balls were getting dropped. And I would say that was probably a little bit of a rubber ball, because it's been years now, but there are things that I've done in my life to improve that side of me. And I'm grateful for the people that have helped me along the way. But, some people think making a B in college is a glass ball, and it's not. And so learning to prioritize the different things as well. Losing a life in combat, that's a glass ball. You failed to do something. You failed to plan. You failed to properly communicate. Something happened. And, Jocko will say, you need to take extreme ownership. You did it. It's your responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility, but today it's yours. You're the leader, right? And so if you drop that glass ball and someone gets injured or tragically loses their life, that's a glass ball. But hey, we had third quarter slipped by 2%. That's a rubber ball, man. As long as you're healthy, that's a rubber ball.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much for giving us those definitions and those examples. I think that's really going to help a lot of people visualize things that are going on in their lives. And I really love the fact that you gave this whole focus shift between missions coming out of the military life and going into civilian life. You had your mission as a student now with these objectives. I think that alone is going to help a lot of people, especially if you're listening to this, you're a vet, you might be struggling with how to get back in to the rhythm of a quote unquote normal life. Just having that focus shift, like it's just a different mission and here's the objectives. I think that's going to help a lot of people. And also the example of the mental health, because again, that's a big in the conversation right now, not just in the military community, but all over the US and probably the world. That mental health thing, just, guys, if you're listening, if you're struggling, it is a rubber ball. It is not permanent. You can go out there, you can recognize that you need that assistance, and you can go out there and get that help and bounce back.
It's kind of a weird one because it can become a glass ball really easily. It's a slippery slope, but I think that is good to point out that, absolutely there are things that you can do. Man, I've got a buddy right now. I don't want to say his name or anything, but he's going through it, and we don't know what's exactly happening, but he won't seek help. And we can't force him. He's over the age of 18, of course. So we can't force him to do anything unless he injures himself or somebody else, or there's a threat. There's no, but I think, it's getting to the point where his parents are about to call the police, and get some intervention. And that that could be the saving grace there. But if he would just go talk to somebody regularly, I think a lot of this could be solved. And potentially, I'm not a huge medicine guy, but medicine's helped a lot of people in certain ways, and certain people do need medicines. And I don't think that it's anything to be ashamed of at all. And so go seek help if that's something that you need. But yeah, focus on the mission. And that's another thing that, we're talking about my buddy. He doesn't have a mission right now. What's his mission? He's aimless. So, even in a workplace setting, if you're the leader, my job is to be the student and make A's. My job is to be a leader and make A's, right? I want to score an A. I want to get a 5-star review. I just posted about a 5-star review coming out this week. I'm going to do social media. I did that this morning. And they gave me a great social media or a Google review. And I was like, oh, heck yeah. So that's my job, is to get those 5-star reviews. But also my job, my mission these days is to make sure that your employees go home, sit on the couch, maybe turn on the TV, whatever they're going to do, plop down on the couch. Maybe they're exhausted. But I want them to say, man, that was a good day at work. I really enjoy my job. Now it's time to spend some time with my family, right? That's what I want going through everybody's head that works for the companies that I help, right? Profit, all this other operations, efficiency, all of that is a feeder to that. If we're making money, we're doing it more efficiently and easier for our employees, better streamlined and standardized processes. And then guess what? We train the leadership to actually kind of start to understand what the dynamics of mental behavior are in the workplace, and why this person is a clock in and clock out person, and why this person is a go-getter and a +3 and you're a +3 back to them. All of that's a feeder to flopping down on the couch at the end of the day. What is that mentality? And so that's my mission,
That makes perfect sense. And that's one of the things that I was going to ask you, is like, what was your vision for the company? And I think you just laid it out right there. And I love how you're focusing on the human element of it. In a sense, having the employees go home with a sense of peace in their mind about what they've done during the day and feel good about it. And so, how, you were talking about leadership there. Has leadership always been a part of your consulting services, or is that something, a leg that you added in after, the whole operations thing was established?
No, I think, originally, you have to set, okay, what are my skill sets? And, when I was working for Caterpillar, um, this this was before I even learned what an ikigai was. But and maybe I came across somebody explaining an ikigai. I don't know how I stumbled upon this concept, but I said, what am I good at? What makes money? And what is needed in the market, or all of these different things, right? And so I kind of had that Venn diagram in my mind. But what I did was I sat down and said, okay, let me pull the bullet items of a 15 papa, which is aviation operations. Let's pull that off of the Army website, and then let's write what I did beside it. Okay, I have my job descriptions. I had multiple roles over at Caterpillar. I have my job descriptions from Caterpillar. Let's pull that. And from what I can recollect from my time at Pizza Hut while I was in college, my times at at a moving company, at a lawn mowing company, at, I was always working. I was, you gotta make ends meet during college. Um, what are the things that I was doing? What are the little e-commerce stores, all this other crap that I did? What are the bullet points? Let's list them all out. What are similar? What are the outliers that Pizza Hut, obviously throwing pizzas on a pizza? Okay, that's only going to happen at a pizza restaurant, So get rid of those. Who cares, right? What are the core competencies that I possess? And I looked at it and I said, okay, I've always led teams. I've learned leadership from some of the greatest leaders. I had all three of my lieutenant colonels while I was in the Army in 7th, 17th Cav. Shout out to you boys. And girls. We had women in our unit because it was an aviation unit. But those leaders at the Cav grew to be 2-star generals and colonels and things like that. The majors became colonels and generals. The captains, some of them got out and went to Wharton School of Business. I mean, I was rubbing elbows with some great officers and some pretty awesome enlisted guys. So that have gone on to do great things. And so that leadership structure in my unit was just outstanding. Then I drew the lines in college. Hey, that's what Lieutenant Colonel Bontrager was doing when he said this. That's almost straight out of this book by Daniel Pink, that I'm reading in college. So now we can draw those lines. So that was always part of my ikigai. This is a long explanation. I hope you don't mind.
Not
But
at all.
that was always part of, hey, I was always in operations, always in leadership, always improving the process, always being a continuous improvement person. And so I started looking at continuous improvement, and this entrepreneurship journey started after I'd applied at a lot of jobs and all of these things happened. And I was going after this continuous improvement thing. And somebody gave me an opportunity to come work for them as a consultant, contract work, to help them grow their business. And I was like, you know what? I could do this. And I had talked to a consultant before that had started his own company doing risk. He had a software as a service on the risk side, machine learning type stuff. And I had talked to him and I kind of was intrigued by the idea, but then somebody offered me the opportunity to do it. And I was like, oh, I like this. I don't have to sit in a cubicle all day or, work with the same people over and over and over. No offense to anybody that loves doing that, but I kind of stumbled into it and I was like, oh, I like this. Let's do this. And so now we got to put together a business plan. We got to do this. We got to do that. So you start to just put those puzzle pieces into your business from an early stage. And so that's really where leadership came in with operations. I think it all ties in, right? So long story to tell you this. I think the leadership, the operations, all of that, it's all a process. It's all tied in. You cannot have operations without leadership. You can't lead without some employees to lead. And so being an effective leader to get your operations and your efficiency and all of that, you need those leadership skills. I don't believe in the great man theory, which has largely been debunked. But the great man theory says, oh, I've got certain genes that I'm just a natural born leader. And there's nothing you can do to become a leader. I'm the leader, and I'm the Carnegies and the Fords and whatnot.
Yeah. We've all heard that, natural born, whatever,
I do
salesman.
believe you have natural born innate traits,
I do as
but
well.
I
Yeah,
think you can become a salesperson. I've had to
100%.
become a salesperson for my job because my job involves I got to sell my consulting services, right? So how do I do that? So I've got to figure this out that I've never really done other than selling an object. Hey, this object is special because of these features. Here are the benefits you get from these features. That's not how you sell consulting at all. So you
No,
gotta you gotta learn these things. You gotta learn to be a leader. I was very timid in high school. I mean, I was outgoing to an extent, I guess, but I wasn't the homecoming king, so I wasn't that charismatic person. And to this day, I'm not that person. But yeah, I think you can learn these things, and I think it's all part of an interwoven web of how a business works. You got to be a human, or it doesn't work.
absolutely. 100%. And just so diving into the business side, since we're already talking about the different aspects of what makes it successful, when you go into a business and they're struggling, like maybe their demand from their customer is outpacing how they can deliver their product, right? So if you were walking into a situation like that, what are the things that you're going to be looking at? Like, what are the checklists you're going to go down? Like, okay, what's happening in here, 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 and here? How does that work for you?
Well, this concept, I like to call operational capacity, right? So your customers are demanding more than you can produce, whether it's a service or a product. I call that the capacity issue. And so that capacity can be grown. One of the big things is, first and foremost, I look at standardization. If you're reinventing the wheel, you're going to have capacity issues because you're having to be custom. So number one is standardization, a custom model versus a standardized model. Do you have three packages, small, medium, large, of this, or are you every customer is custom? For me, every customer is kind of custom. We can customize, but I have an explore framework that I work through, and with every customer. And so that standardizes my practice. I can say, hey, here are the things we're going to look at. Here's the checklist, right?
Right.
Um, and we're going to work through this. First, we're going to work on some strategy and figuring out what we want to work on. Um, and, so the first thing in my business is that. Why wouldn't it be your first thing? So operational capacity has to stem. You cannot scale without some type of standardization, some type of packaging, not necessarily talking about boxes.
Yeah, we're not talking
But
about
we're,
cardboard boxes or Amazon
yeah,
boxes.
but we are talking about boxes as a concept. Hey, are we boxing these things? How is our service offering helping us to expand? Is it just, we'll do whatever? Hey, we're a marketing company. Well, will you do social media marketing? Well, yeah, sure. Will you do television marketing? I guess. So are you built to film commercials? Do you have the connections to start filming somebody's television commercials and with microphones and cameras? Or do you outsource that? So if the demand is there, okay. Or do you need to just narrow and say, hey, we're a social media marketing company, right? Um, are you delivering 80 different types of glass product to your clients? Or are you focused on the top three bestsellers? I think The Prophet has a really great episode about Inca's shoes, and they just had all kinds of shoes. And so I don't mind using that because it's kind of public domain on MSNBC. I guess they own the rights. But,
Yeah.
you think about that concept of, hey, we make all these shoes and blah, blah, blah. It's like, great. You're spending all this money on design. You're spending all this money on research and development. But these shoes over here aren't even selling. So why don't we focus on these 5 models that are your top sellers and these 5 patterns for these 5 models that are your top sellers. And let's just sell those for a bit. And then if we need to reintroduce We can do a little bit of research and development, figure out what patterns are going to sell, and we can replace the lowest performer on that list of 5, right? So now you got 25 shoes that you sell, 5 times 5, right? And that's it. And we're going to research and develop on some other things. But I think keeping with that model. So I can't remember if it was 5 or 3 or whatever for them, but the principle remains. How do you scale if you're just all over the place? So the first thing first is streamline what you are trying to sell and how you are selling it from that revenue standpoint. So what is your revenue generating activity? How do we streamline that to make it more efficient to deliver a product to the client? The second thing that I go through is I would say standardization of the delivery process itself, right? So the operations. Because we've standardized that, the practice of your product or your service, now we're able to standardize a process to deliver those 3 things or those 5 things or those 25 things. But at least it's not 180, right?
Right.
So if we're streamlining that, we can now start to focus on, okay, where are our circular workflows, 8 wastes of lean, all of these things. Let's get in there and make make that standardized. Okay. How do we communicate that this is the next thing that you need to pick or grab out of the bin? Well, at Amazon, they've got these nice little screens and they bring you a robot and whatever, and you grab out of the bin. And it's because, hey, you're picking things off of a list and it's printed on a piece of paper that you're sticking in the box or whatever. I don't think they do that anymore, a packing slip. But, hey, I got to grab shampoo and a loofah and a hat and whatever, and all this is going into the box because they're ordering from Amazon Prime. How does that delivery system happen to the human element? What's that communication look like? What can we automate? I would even say is like a number 2B there is like, what can we take out of the human hand, right? So working for a driving company, she was doing massive scale e-commerce driving school for teenagers learning to drive, and for newcomers to the United States to learn how to drive and get their United States driver's license, things like that. But in her personal office, the brick and mortar that she had, they were cutting out pieces of paper with scissors for this form. And I was like, dude, just get an iPad and just give it to them and have the form on the iPad or the tablet, whatever, right? And just stop cutting paper, right? And
Right.
then 2, they write it down on a piece of paper. Now, how do you communicate that to the computer that your administrative assistant is going to type that in?
Yep.
They're going to misspell names. They're going to do the wrong phone number, the wrong address. Maybe it's Pflugerville, Texas. Well, maybe this kid didn't spell Pflugerville right. So now you're not going to spell Pflugerville, right? But if you have a computer and it says, oh, are you trying to spell Pflugerville, Texas with a PF? Then, then maybe that's my city's name. So I'm going to spell that right on the computer, and then it's automatically going to go into your database, and then boom, you've got a registered user, and nobody had to do anything. Or, hey, we need to pick a job off who the manager's having to tell people what to work on next. Why don't you have a queuing system where, hey, I'm available. Here's what you need to do next on your phone. You got an app, right? Or on a screen. Hey, I'm available. What do I need to do next? Well, you're going to work on Project 11 Tango, right? Okay, cool. Well, here's the details. Dashboarding. Hey, that took out tons of stuff for meetings. We didn't have to meet for 3 hours anymore because we added a dashboard into the project management. So the project management team lead they didn't have to see, or they didn't have to go through item by item. They could see, okay, everything's on progress except for these 5 things or these 7 things. Let's talk about that during the meeting. That's high impact. And let's get out of that meeting. Then you're saving productivity time with those staff members doing project management, and they can work on better things. That's going to generate revenue. That's going to deliver things to the client. So working through a process like that, just the initial triage is going to be standardization, lean practices, automation, making it as easy for the employees to work as possible. We don't want them to struggle. We want them to just go through the process. We don't want them to reinvent the wheel every time, always. Not all employees should be doing that. There's algorithmic tasks and there's heuristic tasks. Are the heuristically paid people doing the heuristic tasks, or are they doing things that can be automated or things that could be done by someone that's not getting paid as much to do an algorithmic task? Are you paying this guy $360,000 a year to screw on bolts on a wheel in your factory? Is he a design guy, right? Or, so figuring out matching those job descriptions and duties with the person and the salary and the skill set, and then automating anything that can be automated and that should be automated. That should be a distinction. So, I got a lot of slack from automating emails back in the day. Now it's, after we meet somebody, hey, thanks for meeting, whatever. It was automated. And somebody was like, oh, that's just so impersonal. And now I get those all the time. And it's just a standard practice. Like, hey, thanks for meeting. If you have any more questions, blah, blah, blah. And nobody writes those. I've switched back to doing it manually because of that, because of my experience. Like, oh, that is pretty impersonal, right? You got to figure out what those things are, delineate them. That's the mission. Okay, today, what are we doing? Automating. What can we do to automate? What are your needs and wants? How would you rank that want over that want, right? So you got hard and soft filters to evaluate your strategic initiative, and you move forward on the strategic initiative that scores the highest. Maybe it's a new software. Maybe we need to hire 3 more employees. Maybe we need to fire some people. That sucks. And I don't like to do it, and I don't advocate for it. Let's find them a good place. Let's fire them from that job, but let's put them somewhere else in the company and keep their meals on their table, right? I think there's a time and place for that, but Anyway, so long story short, go in triage and do, immediately go in and say, what can I standardize? What can I automate? What can I streamline? What can I take the circular workflows and the overproduction and all of that stuff out? You got a really good base for where to start.
Perfect. And you mentioned you went right where I wanted to go next, which was into the tech and the automation side of things, because obviously that's a big feature of, a big plus for what you do and what you look at. And of some of the things that you mentioned, are these technologies or SaaS products that are available like from your company, or are you working with vendor partners to integrate these things in with your clients? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, we're developing some things that aren't on the market yet. And it's going to take a little while to kind of really evaluate what's the need of the market and things like that. Hey, we've got all these ideas and we're going to code this and mock this up and whatever. But for the most part, what I do is we figure out where the goal is, and I kind of project manage at the minimalist term here is I'll manage that project and say, okay, we're going to pick from someone else's software that's already on the market. I mean, a custom software doesn't get I think it's a 179 deduction, but an off-the-shelf software gets a 179 deduction on your taxes because it's a business expense that can be deducted in that way. When you spend money on a custom software for your company to do this kind of accounting, to do this thing, whatever, you don't get a deduction on that. So that might be $400,000 that you're spending. This is an actual scenario. You might be spending $400,000 on a custom software that can be done for $12,000 a year off the shelf. And then, or I think it was $18,000, and then it got down to 12 with a discount. And then I think it got down to 9 with the deduction. $391,000 saved. Boom, done. And you get more features, and you get and right. But
Oh
we
yeah.
had to go through 40 different softwares to figure that out.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, guys, man, we just went down the rabbit hole of business and operations and things to make sure to look at to make sure your operation is running smooth, efficiently, everything from the human element to automation, repurposing humans that are not maybe in the right spot. Just wow. Cory obviously knows what he's doing and has plenty of experience in this realm. And so rewind that segment if you need it, if you need to understand or take a deeper look about what's going on in your business, rewind that whole segment. Make sure you share this show with anybody that needs it. And because you do concentrate on the human side of things, that is ultimately the focus. And I heard it mentioned multiple times, even within the nuts and bolts of the operations. I want to get back into the humanistic element for just a little bit here as we close this out. I want to know, what is your personal vision for your life? Not of the business, but for your life. Cory, the human.
Well, Cory the human wants to retire and go hiking and fishing and be outdoors. That is the ultimate goal. I do this so that I can be outdoors and so that I can be with nature, and that's my driving force. Is I love my dog, and I love, taking her to Alaska to go salmon fishing, and I love going hiking. My vision, there's a couple of things like hiking the Appalachian Trail on the Pacific coast, and things like that. I think, I got to start doing that stuff. Those are the goals. That's the mission. I want, like I said, I took architecture in college because I wanted to be an architect, and I think that design is always going to be part of my life. So, being able to build my own home out where lots of glass, lots of trees, doing that is the ultimate goal. I tell people, hey, if you're not giving me a brick for my home, I gotta concentrate somewhere else, right? And so that's the ultimate goal, is let's do that. And, I'm on my way.
Awesome. I love it. I love the whole big glass wall cabin out in the woods. I completely resonate with that. And that's like my dream kind of location, is just this house that's kind of like a mile or two outside of the city limits, and you've got your closest neighbor is like a mile down the road or whatever. This huge lot. Yeah, I totally get that. That's awesome. And yeah, it's all about experience. The experience that you want to have in this life. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're out there doing it, what are you doing it for? Not only from the business side, but from the personal side. You need that. You need that driver. You need that why. And so thank you for sharing yours, Cory. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And so, where can people find out more about you, your company? If somebody's listening to this, like, man, I have got to get this guy inside my organization because he knows what the heck he's doing. Where can we find out about you?
Well, personally, I'm on social media everywhere at Cory Myers, and I'm sure that'll be in the show notes. But
Absolutely.
the Gravir strategist is at gravir.consulting. That's Gravir. And it's a French word that means to climb. So if you forget all else, you can say, what's the French word to climb? And Google will point you my direction. But Gravir strategists can be found on social media as well. And we've got a newsletter out called the Climb Higher newsletter. You can get that at gravirstrategy.com/subscribe. So that's different than our website. We have multiple domains, as you can imagine, but that newsletter comes out every Monday. So if you're saying, hey, I don't know if I want to hire Cory, you can go check out case studies. You can go check out past newsletters, and you can subscribe for free, and you'll get it every Monday. 6 a.m. is when it gets released. And our paid subscribers get some extra features throughout the week, some little tidbits, some notes, some personal behind the scenes type stuff. So I just sent one out on Thursday or Friday saying, hey, I need your help. So we're writing an article, and if you want to get involved with helping me, things like that, or giving your input, then subscribe to the paid version.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, guys, those links will be down below. So you can just go click, check out the site, get on the newsletter. Like Cory said, if you're not quite sure you're ready to hire him yet, but still want some of that valuable insight, those stories, those case studies. And yeah, the personal touch from, I think it's Substack that you're on. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. The personal touch from the Substack is a great move as well, just to kind of, again, dip your toe into those waters of Gravir.
Well, real
Well,
quick, I mean, that's taken over my blog. So I don't have a blog on the website anymore. All of that's going to Substack, just as a, that's the resource. So, you go and see people's resources. Hey, they're blogging about this. HubSpot's got a blog. Everybody. This is a newsletter and a blog in the same. So you guys can go check that out.
yet again, another example of operational efficiency right there. Cory, this has been a great conversation and a ton of value shared. So I can't thank you enough for coming on, man. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, and I look forward to hearing more episodes.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, you know what to do. If you like the show, make sure you like it, subscribe to the channel, Spotify, YouTube. Now we're on iTunes as well. So find us there, get your entrepreneurship together, and go share this show. Help us grow, help get Cory's message out. And peace. We'll see you in the next one.